Well, we've all heard those ads for 1-800-GOT-JUNK. We make junk disappear. All you have to do is point, right? Well, meet the man behind the catchy slogan, the entrepreneur behind several inspired businesses, and now the newest member of CBC's Dragon's Den. He's up next on this episode of Brio TV, the podcast. Brian, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
I can hear you well. Yeah. How are you today?
I'm awesome. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm just going to turn the volume up a little bit here.
Where are you today?
I live in Orangeville, Ontario. It's about an hour north of Toronto, and we moved here in March. Moved up Highway 10 from Brampton, and that's why I'm fascinated to talk to you for many reasons. But one is, I moved, and my wife and I, I'd been in that house for 24 years, and oh my God, 1-800-JUNK. I mean, I should have my picture from all four sides on posters on every one of your trucks.
I love it.
Because I so understand the fundamental principles behind that business and value them so much. It's just crazy when you move. You don't realize how much you accumulate in years if you sit in one place. And worse if it was the big place where you raised kids and it becomes a warehouse. Mm-hmm. And so my God, I learned many things. One of them is that pianos have no value. So anyway.
Yeah, well, we can get into it, but yeah, no, you're right. There's a lot that has no value these days. People think, there's so much technology now in this world that's eliminated the value of records and CDs and books, and it's crazy.
It is crazy. So anyway, listen, let me just introduce you.
Of course.
My guest today is the man who has made junk sexy as the founder of 1-800-GOT-JUNK. Now he's turning ordinary to extraordinary with everything he touches, partnering with hand-picked franchisees at Wow One Day Painting, You Move Me, and Shack Shine, and other enterprises. So who better than to be joining Dragon's Den when it returns for a 19th season beginning September 26 on CBC and CBC Gem? Please welcome O2E founder and CEO Brian Scudamore. Brian, pleased to have you here.
Thank you, Bill. And you're the only person that's ever called our business sexy. So I'll remember that forever.
Well, it is sexy. And then we were talking just previously about 1-800-JUNK. It's just a inspired idea that you had. And why don't we just start there, if you don't mind? And it's a very inspiring story. And that's why you're so perfect for Dragon's Den. That you were a student, you were a young man, I believe you were like 18, and you were trying to find a summer job, and you got this inspiration while you were at a McDonald's drive-thru, I think. Is that true?
That's the story. You tell it well. Yeah, I was looking for a way to pay for college, and I happened to have been in a McDonald's, as teenagers often would be, and I was in the drive-thru, and I thought, what am I going to do for a business? And literally right in front of me was this junk truck. It said Mark's Hauling on the side, and it was filled to the rim with junk. And I looked at that and I went, that's what I got to do. I'm going to go take my life savings of $1,000, go buy a beat up old pickup truck of my own, which cost me $700. And I started driving down alleys and laneways. And when I saw someone at a pile of junk, I'd go knock on their front door and introduce myself and offer to cart it away for a fee. And that business model paid for college. It was exactly what I needed to get through university financially. But I then learned I was learning much more about business, actually running a business, as opposed to studying in school, and made a tough decision to drop out before finishing.
Well, and you have your own podcasts, and you've mentioned, I've been listening, that You have to go out and get your own MBAs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Get your hands dirty and do it that way, right? And so I'm fascinated to hear some of those lessons, but I just think it's really inspiring. You know, you've made a fortune doing the jobs that the rest of us are loath to tackle: decluttering, throwing stuff out, painting the house, cleaning the eaves. It's brilliant. So, you know, and you know, you're famous. You wrote a book about don't be afraid to fail, right? So you must have had some stumbles along the way, even though you were doing well right off the bat.
Yeah, I wrote a book called WTF, which stands for Willing to Fail. And the book is just filled with lessons learned, mistakes made, but when I wrote the book, the title actually came at the end because my co-author and I, Roy Williams, we looked at the book and went, oh my gosh, this story is filled. This novel, this book of my life has been filled with mistakes. While I failed so many times, every single failure took me to a better place because I was able to reflect on what happened. What would I do differently next time? Don't repeat the mistake. And how will that allow me to build and grow? So someone might think dropping out of university was a failure. Well, it got me to focus on running my business full time. I was learning more about business running one versus studying in textbooks. And it got me to get out and continue to learn by knocking on doors of other entrepreneurs and asking for help. And so I didn't drop out of learning. I just dropped out of university and said, I'm going to find a better way. And it was that failure that inspired me to find a better way.
Absolutely. And just quickly, do you still have that first truck?
Mm-mm. That truck is long gone in the truck graveyard, wherever that might be. But no, it was a 1974 or 1976 Ford F-100.
Awesome.
And
wow.
Didn't last me long.
Don't go away. We'll be right back with the new dragon, Brian Scudamore. Time once again to speak with Emily Gagne from Hollywood Suite. Emily, what have you got for us this month?
Well, I don't know if you've heard, Bill, but it's back to school season, but also back to sports season. So we've got some of the most iconic sports films in movie history back on the channel.
Listen, I hope you have Bull Durham. That's one thing I want to see.
Oh my gosh, we do have Bull Durham, one of the best. But we also have Ron Shelton's White Man Can't Jump. We've also got Karate Kid. We've got Talladega Nights, if you're into NASCAR.
Very good. Those are great films. What else have you got?
Well, if you're not into sports, we can go in a musical direction. We've got September soundtracks. So these are iconic films that have great music in it. So it could be a musical like Finding Girl, or it could be, just a movie that has great music all over it. Yeah.
Well, that's a terrific lineup, Emily, all this month on Hollywood Suite. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you, Bill.
Well, want to hear something truly fab? This year is the 60th anniversary of the Beatles' first feature, A Hard Day's Night. Now, most of us have seen it over the years, but how many have seen it on a big movie screen? Well, now is your chance. On Saturday, September 21st, the Westdale Theatre in Hamilton will be showing this black and white classic in all its glory. That's not all. I will be there as well, showing some rare Beatles shorts in 16mm. These are films from my own collection, including a 1963 British newsreel, trailers from Help, Yellow Submarine, and Let It Be, plus the Beatles performing Hey Jude, introduced by David Frost. Don't miss this nostalgic look back at the Fab Four, screened as part of the TV on Film party. And yes, there will be Beatles trivia and prizes. The fun begins at 6 p.m. Saturday, September 21st at Hamilton's premier repertory cinema and arts venue, the historic Westdale Theatre. Hope to see you there. here he is again, Brian Scudamore. Now, this philosophy of learning from failure, it's one that has been famously, put forward by people like Walt Disney, Michael Jordan. Disney had a terrible Oswald the Lucky Rabbit was stolen out from under him when he was a young man, and he went on to come up with Mickey Mouse. Is how important is it to learn to fail early, to fail while you're young, I guess?
Well, I think it's important to embrace failure. That, to me, is the important point. Is we're all going to make mistakes. We always do. I mean, that we're human beings, right? We're not perfect. But when we make a mistake, the gift is that someone's able to look at that mistake and go, okay, what did I learn? What would I do differently here? So, for example, we were on the Oprah Winfrey Show years ago, and it was a massive media win for us. When we used to pitch Oprah and pitch other media, when the person on the other line would say, sorry, Brian, this isn't a story, rather than just take that no and hang up, I'd say, well, what would make it a story? What's missing? And I never convinced them to publish or produce the story, but they gave me some gold that I could then take and rejig my pitch, which ultimately landed us on the Oprah Winfrey Show. We needed the failures from other press to then tweak that and say, okay, now we understand how to make this a story.
And what was then the new pitch to Oprah's people that made them bring you in?
Well, we learned that we had to make the pitch not about us. So as an entrepreneur, you get out there and you go, look at all these great things we're doing. 1-800-GOT-JUNK. We're hauling away junk. We're making money. We're growing. I started as a student. Whatever that story was, we had to shift our angle to make it about, here's how we could help your viewers. And so we ended up learning from Oprah that they were looking to do an episode about a hoarder, a woman who had so much junk in her apartment in LA that she really had no life and she couldn't get rid of things. She couldn't let go. And so we came in to help with Oprah's crew and producers to save the day and help this woman get organized and get rid of things she'd been holding on to for too long that had really become a big obstacle. So realizing how could we make it not about us, but about the viewer, about who the audience could resonate with, that was incredibly important.
And that's why your marketing pitch is brilliant for 1-800-JUNK. It's like, you just point and it's gone. Like, I mean, to me, that's irresistible. That's what we want to hear. When did you come up with that idea?
Well, so we have so my co-author on WTF, Roy Williams, is also our creative visionary on the marketing side in terms of advertising. So our radio and our TV creative. And he dreamt that up when trying to figure out, why, if we're about making it easy for our customers, how do we show just how easy it is? And Roy said, all you got to do is point. And we make the junk disappear. I mean, everybody can point.
It's brilliant.
And that's pretty easy. So we've spent a lot of money over the years building up on that campaign, as companies do, but it's proven to be simple, effective, and it just covers it all. I mean, you went through a big move, you said, and you've used us a whole bunch of times, and you realize how overwhelming it can be to have all this junk get in the way. But when you have a company come in and literally Bill stands there and goes, take that, and that pile, boom. It's like magic.
It's like chains around your neck, your life, your past, and everything you think is worth something. I downsized my parents' house and sold it after my dad died. And there was, my mom had all these teacups and silverware and things. Oh, the family will want all of my dining room set. And no, none of that was wanted or valued. It's just not part of anyone under 30 is not interested in upholstered furniture. And, my dad's piano, these things, I had to pay, $300 just to get rid of the piano. That's another job, Brian, by the way. I found a guy who had a truck, and I put the piano on Facebook Marketplace. Yeah. First for $200, then for $100, then for free. No one would take it. So there's a guy whose business is driving around in an old truck, maybe your Ford F-100. And he had 3 of them on his truck, and he put mine on and charged me $300 to haul it away. But he supposedly repurposes them, brings them to a guy, and they go to community places. And I was hopeful that's true and happy that it might continue to be used. Mm-hmm. But this is what's happening. All these you must see business opportunities just radiating like fingers from what you've started that never end.
There's no shortage of opportunity in this world for anyone that wants to start their own business. There's ideas in front of us constantly. People have problems. People have challenges in life. And how can you help make their life easier? That's our number one approach with all of our businesses, whether it's Shack Shine, where we do windows, gutters, power washing, or Wow One Day Painting, where we paint people's homes. It's all about just that magic of, wow, they made it so easy. They took the hard chore that no one wants to do, and they did it for me, of course, in exchange for money, but we make the process easy and stress-free.
And so a lot of your clients must be boomers or older people in their 60s who have downsized, and they don't necessarily want to get on a ladder and clean their gutter anymore or paint their house anymore or everything else. Is it true that that demo is part of your bigger clients, I guess?
We're really across demos in terms of, of course, it's a service people are paying for. Many people can paint their homes themselves or clean their own windows, but people value time more than money. And they say, you know what, like I just don't have the time, or it's not safe getting up on a ladder. I want someone to do it for me. But across demos, I mean, we've got people in their 20s and 30s that use us that are they're too busy building their career or too busy enjoying their young family.
Yeah.
They don't want to be spending weekends hauling away stuff to the dump.
Yeah, no, that's smart. And reading about you too, your philosophy is interesting. You found that finding the right people to partner with as franchisees was probably more important than even the business itself, right?
Of course. I mean, isn't everything all about people? If I look at Dragon's Den, which is a subject of this podcast, they had to really, really be careful who they brought on as the new dragon. And I can't even believe it's me. I mean, the show airs in September. I'm still going, I don't know if I'll believe it till I see it, but they picked me. They've got to be very careful in all of the entrepreneurs that they're bringing on to pitch, that you're selecting the right people that just fit. There's a culture with Dragon's Den. There's a culture in my business. We have fun. We take our business seriously, but not ourselves. We believe in accomplishing the impossible and doing challenging things. And so finding people, in our case, franchise owners, if we don't find the right people who believe in our vision of possibility, who believe that we can grow and build something special that makes it easy for customers, nothing else matters.
I can't believe it took them 19 seasons to have you come in. Just the opposite. Nice. You seem such an obvious choice. Have you already shot the season that we're about to see?
It's all in the bag. Yeah, we shot the whole season. And I think we had about 100 different pictures that we put up on stage. So an hour a piece. I mean, it was a lot of work, but I cannot wait to see it air. So excited about the difference that, that this show can make for entrepreneurs. Arlene Dickinson, who's one of my fellow dragons, she talks about the difference this is making for Canadian entrepreneurship, where people can see these people come on to Dragon's Den. Some do deals, some don't, but how it inspires the rest of Canada, people that want to start their own business, to take that next step.
Well, Arlene certainly is the veteran of the Dragons, been on more seasons than anyone. And did she take you aside before the cameras rolled and said, listen, Brian, don't get too carried away? Did you get any tips from her on how to play this?
Oh, yeah. No, I called her ahead of time once I knew I was going to be on the show and asked her for some advice, and very lovely. And she gave me lots of advice. But the lucky part for me is I sat next to her on stage. So I would always lean over and show my notebook and say, what do you think of this? Is this a deal? Should I be doing something here? I've never done deals. I've built my own business for 35 years. And this is my first set of doing deals. And she was incredibly, incredibly helpful.
So what was the process like? You're presented with all these opportunities. Did you find, I mean, I guess you can't tell us what we're going to see, but we can assume you must have made some deals this season, right?
Sure. No, I made a good bunch of deals. I think that, for a new dragon and someone who's never done any deals, I was probably quite excited and enthusiastic. So I did some deals, some good ones. But what I loved about it was you're only given an hour with these entrepreneurs in front of you to go, do I like you? Do I believe you have what it takes? Do I like your business idea? How are the numbers? I mean, you've got to ask so much in an hour and then make a decision. Now, it's a decision on TV that both the pitcher and the dragon are not legally bound to.
Right.
But you want to go in with the integrity. I'm not making a deal that I know that I really wouldn't do. But then you do the due diligence post camera and you're like, okay, there really was something here. So what blew my mind was that in an hour, you can really evaluate an idea and a team of people and make a deal.
Do you think this would have been a forum that would have worked for you had you walked into the Dragon's Den and pitched Wow One Day Painting, or You Move Me Shack
sure.
Shine? Would you have excelled in that arena?
Oh, yeah, I think so. Because first of all, the publicity that these entrepreneurs get for their business, whether a deal happens or not, is invaluable. If Wow One Day Painting and our concept was covered on national TV in the early days, I mean, it's gold. So yes, I would have benefited. I think I would have thrived in the space. And then I think what these entrepreneurs who are pitching really get is some wisdom and some advice from some people who have been there and done that. To have a mentor be alongside of you as you continue to build a business in the early days, I think is invaluable.
And you got to know all of the dragons, of course. And were you a fan of this series before you were part of it?
Oh my gosh, I loved it. So I actually, little known fact, tried out for the Dragon's Den 3 times.
Okay,
so this was my third time, and third time was a charm. But I'd always loved the show. I had cold pitched years ago Robert Herjavec to come speak at our conference, and he did, and I got to know him, and he had me speak at his conference, and so I'd always been a fan of the show and of the dragons. Of course, one of our local dragons is Jim Treliving, Boston Pizza.
Yeah,
gotten to know him as a mentor over the years, so I love what Dragon's Den does for Canadian entrepreneurship.
They're all pretty inspiring. I remember doing a story on Herjavec and all at his car collection. Like he has, I don't know how many really cool cars. He's got big cars and little cars he puts inside the big cars. He's got a lot of cars.
It's nuts. Yeah. He's a fantastic guy. He is, as far as entrepreneurs go, we like to take risks and challenges. And, he races these cars, right? He's not just buying them to put in the garage. He's actually flying down the track, which is fascinating.
It's pretty inspiring story for sure. Now, also this season, you've got a sort of a celebrity Dragon's Den judge as well, right? Simu is a part of the deal.
Yeah, Simu Liu, who has been in a lot of Marvel movies and some big things. I mean, he's a fun guy. I got to sit beside him as well on the other side for the episodes that he filmed with us. And it was fun to get to know him. I'm like, dude, you're a real life superhero. Like, what are you doing here on a business show? But he's got a really good business brain. And really enjoyed what he had to offer up to the team.
Well, that's one thing I was curious about is he's pretty astute when it comes to business. I guess it's becoming part of Marvel and all these things. You've got to have a head for it, right? Especially at a young age.
Yeah, no, he's not just a handsome face with a big strong Superman body. He is a guy who has a really great brain, and it was really neat. There I am sitting beside him and listening to his business advice. And after the pitch, I'd turn to him and I'm like, dude, you've been acting all your life. Like, this is phenomenal that you can see the world that way, and that you can give that kind of wisdom. I mean, he's going to do well. He's created a fund, and he's investing in businesses. And I think it's going to be a really neat thing for him to watch, that here's a guy who will enjoy not just his acting career, but also helping people grow their businesses.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. Want more with Brian Scudamore? All you have to do is point and be back in a minute. Here's what's heating up the Super Channel schedule this September. Heart and Home premieres Someone Like You. The feature is based on the New York Times bestseller from Karen Kingsbury. After the tragic loss of his best friend, a grieving young architect launches a search for her secret twin sister. The film stars former Degrassi player Sarah Fisher. Another premiere is Devil's Peak, airing on Super Channel Fuse. This is about an 18-year-old who tries to escape his meth-dealing kingpin father and long-suffering mother to run off with the girl of his dreams. You can probably guess which character Billy Bob Thornton plays. Robin Wright also stars. Plus, there are more new episodes of Troppo, the shot in New Zealand series about an eccentric private eye hired to search for a missing tech pioneer. Thomas Jane stars. And remember, Super Channel, an all-Canadian company, is available via most cable providers across the country, as well as streaming live and on demand with Amazon Prime Video channels, Apple TV Plus, and Fubo. Well, once again, there's a mountain of entertainment for the whole family on Paramount Plus. That's certainly true this month. Not only is Frasier back in the building, but so is Stallone, Dora, and several other favorites. Frasier's sophomore season will see the good doctor return to his radio roots in Seattle for an episode featuring old friends Bulldog Briscoe, Gil Chesterton, and super agent BB Glazier. The fun begins September 19th. On Tulsa King, mob capo Dwight Manfredi, played by Sylvester Stallone, locks horns with neighboring gangsters from the Kansas City mob. Does it all begin September 15th? Absolutely. On the shot in Nova Scotia horror series From, new strangers wander into the nightmarish town, including Canadian cast members Robert Joy and Samantha Brown. Season 3 begins September 22nd. Finally, Paramount Plus's preschool favorite Dora returns for a second season September 13th. Looking for a streaming service with something for every member of the family? Subscribe now to Paramount Plus. We're back. Now, again, you've written books and even your podcast, Founder Stories. You're doing this. I don't know where you have time. When do you sleep? Are you getting some enjoyment from discussing these? That's a great. I listened to it where you're talking to people who you're associated with generally, but who have started businesses, and you're sharing these stories of how to succeed, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, when I do a podcast interview, I learn way more than I think any of the audience might. I'm just like, I love asking questions and learning what makes this person tick. Mm-hmm. Why were they going to medical school, but then they shifted to then become an entrepreneur and start a painting business? That just is mind blowing. So it's a lot of fun. And when you say, where do I find time to sleep? Got plenty of time. I've got a great team, and we're all busy working hard together. And that's what makes it all possible. I get to work in my area of unique ability of what I love in life, and our team gets to work in things that they love to do that they're great at.
Well, it's pretty exciting. I listened to the chapter you were speaking with the gentleman. He somehow managed to have the Golden Gate Bridge shut down so he could drive his 32 trucks across with his business on them. Yeah. And he just explained the process of how that happened. And it was pretty impressive in that it was logical and that people were open to it, right? What's the craziest promotional scheme you've had to do to get your business's message across?
Yeah, I mean, that might have been one of them, but I think the craziest is our getting on the Oprah Winfrey show, getting on the Ellen DeGeneres show. Everyone in their right mind said there's no way this little junk removal company will get on either of those. And sure enough, it happened. We got our book in New York Times, up on a massive digital billboard in front of the NASDAQ. And that was just from making a phone call to someone who said, "Oh, I got a great idea for how you should promote this book. I know Josh, who runs the NASDAQ. Let me get him to get you on his podcast and interview." And then at the end, he goes, "Hey, Brian, go outside. We're going to put your book on the billboard." I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" And so it fits, Bill. It fits a philosophy of mine that you never know what you'll get unless you ask. And I'd love to inspire entrepreneurs or startup entrepreneurs to take more risks and just ask. What's the worst someone can say when you pitch Oprah? They can say no, but you can learn from that no and turn it into a yes at a later date.
Well, I found that too. Sometimes when I'm doing podcasts, I've been writing about TV for a long time, and I'll request interviews with sometimes, people who are pretty hard to reach. And if you just persist, and ask the right way, often the answer is yes. So it's rewarding, but you have to establish some sort of a track record, which you certainly have, and that helps. Your second book, BYOB, Build Your Own Business, was this the one that was promoted on the stock exchange, or this is?
No, the WTF was on the stock exchange. BYOB, go ahead.
It's more about being your own boss, right?
It is. It's helping people see that I think there's two paths in entrepreneurship when you start a business. Some different models. You can completely start from scratch and build out the model on your own like I did. Or you can take a proven recipe like a franchise and say, "Hey, listen, I want to take someone else's systems and I want to build and scale from a proven recipe." So someone I talk about in the book who I've had the pleasure to have lunch with and get to hang out with a little bit is Shaquille O'Neal.
Wow.
And Shaq is an incredible franchise partner. He owns a whole ton of businesses in the franchise space, in the food space. And what I love about him is he said, "Listen, I don't need to be the guy coming up with the idea." He goes, "I know all about leadership and teamwork from being in the NBA. I know about coaching and growth. I know about winning." He said, "I want to be the guy that just goes, let me take the proven system and scale it out really quickly across the country versus starting from scratch, figuring out the idea and taking 10 years like I did to refine this 1-800-GOT-JUNK model." And so my book, I think, investigates both sides fairly. Are you better off being a creator from scratch like me who needed to do that? Or are you better off being a Shaquille O'Neal and just going, "Hey, I just want to drive the race car. Like, give me the keys and let's go."
Well, it helps being 7'3", I've talked to Shaquille O'Neal and down in LA on one of the press tours, and the room got dark when he walked toward me. He's quite a specimen. Huge. What a guy, but also so incredibly charismatic. The ad he does for ink for printers in Canada is one of the most successful 30 seconds I've ever seen. You just love him and you want to buy that product.
Well, he's a really, he's charismatic. He's hilarious. So I got to know a guy, Jamie Simoff, who started Ring, the cameras, and he hired Shaquille to go do some Ring ads. So Shaquille comes in, Jamie's crew goes, "Here's the script." And Shaq takes it, grabs the script and crumples it up in a ball and throws it away. Jamie's going, "Oh my gosh, what is this?" And Shaquille's just like, No. We ain't going to do it like that. We're going to figure this thing out. We're going to, and they ad-libbed and they had fun and it created an incredible campaign. And so he didn't do this in an arrogant way. He did it in a playful way. Of course, they could print out another script, but like the guy he's unbelievable.
That's fabulous. You must just pinch yourself not only at the size of the businesses, how successful they've all become, but just having experiences like that, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, we make our own luck, and you create opportunities by picking up the phone and talking to people and asking for help. And so I do pinch myself sometimes, but I remind myself that we work hard at creating our own luck and we have fun doing it.
And these jobs are hard work jobs that people don't generally want to do, so you have to put your back into it. Most of these businesses anyway.
Of course.
But do you think in Canada is the business do banks get it now in terms of people trying to start small businesses? These are times that are somewhat nervous. Is there cooperation at the bank level? Do you think for people who have ideas and need some help?
I don't know. I mean, of course, I love bankers. They're people too, but I have not had over the years a lot of support from banks, in the early days when I needed money. They told me no, the Business Development of Canada, no, like it was hard. But I think entrepreneurs are a different breed of people in that they are taking some risks. And banks don't necessarily want to take risks and partner on that. They want proof. Show me the numbers. So those two don't often go together. I think where banks come in and support is at a medium to large level when things are a little more certain. So I don't criticize banks for that. I just think that those two don't necessarily go together.
Well, when you have folks coming before you on Dragon's Den and they're looking for, some money to expand their business, to grow it, what is the ask that you're waiting to hear? What is it that they need to tell you so that you're interested in what they're pitching?
Mm-hmm. Well, first and foremost, I'm looking for people. Is it someone I like? Do I feel they're similar to me in that they will go out and make the impossible happen? Do they have a cheery, optimistic attitude? They've got the tenacity to work through this and make magic happen. I mean, I look first and foremost for people. And then I want to understand that they know they're going to make mistakes and be open to those failures, that when things don't go well, they're not going to give up. They're going to tweak it and figure out a way. So a quick story. We had a couple who had pitched their business partners and their romantic partners, and they said, we've got this business idea. We've got a cat, and these two women have a cat toothbrush that they invented.
Okay.
And I believe it's going to be in the first episode. And so these two women said, listen, we've got this cat that is clearly a part of the show. It's 28 pounds. We've got to get this cat from Vancouver with us to Toronto to the studio for Dragon's Den. And they try and get on the plane, and Air Canada says, no, your cat's too big. We can't do it. And under no circumstance would they allow it. So these two women got in their car and said, we are not giving up. And they drove across the country with their cat through the night to make the deadline of getting to the show on time. And so to me, I look at that and I go, that's brilliant. That's an entrepreneur that says, when I hit an obstacle, I'm going to do whatever it takes to overcome it.
Wow. And we'll see that on the first episode when the series returns September 26th.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow. That's exciting. Pretty cool. Well, it's a good thing JD Vance isn't one of the judges, the Dragon's Den, because if these are childless cat ladies, they might get thrown out of the studio.
Oh,
gosh. Now, here's my pitch on a show, on an enterprise.
Okay.
I think you should think of launching 1-800-Pickers. So it's the truck that follows the 1-800-Junk, because as someone who's downsized, all this stuff that I've hoarded and thought was valuable, turns out it isn't. And that was a surprise to me, some of it. Have you ever considered this, that people just don't know what they've got that is valuable and not valuable, that there might be treasures that are thrown away that maybe could be reassigned to people who know how to collect them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's a great point, Bill. We call it repurposing. So taking an item like your piano and saying nobody wants it, even for free, but this guy who can take it and maybe refurbish it a little bit or get it to a community who might use it. Repurposing things is really important. While our furniture tastes might not be the same today as they were 30 years ago, and someone's getting rid of these big old TVs versus a flat screen and so on, a lot of these items can be recycled, repurposed, donated, and so on. So that is something we focus on. Our franchise partners will often take an empty warehouse that they'll rent and take some of these things, just like you said, 1-800-Pickers, and put some stuff into that warehouse and then give it away to people in the community and so on. So we work hard at it, but it's still, what I've learned is not all junk has value. and other than recycling value. So it's a challenge.
Are you someone who has streamlined your possessions? Do you purposely avoid being a hoarder because you've just seen too many horror stories in these businesses?
Yeah, I mean, I married a woman who is a minimalist just like me. So I think we're just lucky that we don't like a lot of stuff. We like memories and we like family time and all that. So we travel. We don't really buy a lot of stuff and hoard, which is, I think, just who we are.
That helps. Yeah. I've married someone who is happy to toss things much quicker than I am. Maybe me along with it.
Oh, no.
Now, Brian, you've been very generous with your time. I just want to ask you three last questions about television. What are you watching? Are there TV shows that, besides Dragon's Den, that you're watching nowadays?
Oh, no, you've actually got me on a public podcast saying this, but if I'm being honest, as of course I always am, last night, what was I watching? Season 4 of Emily in Paris.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a cheesy show, but I love everything to do with Paris. And even though it's a funny show, it was entertaining.
You must have loved the Olympics.
Yeah, we were in Paris actually for the Olympics, and It was unbelievable. You've never seen so many police in your life, I'll tell you that much.
Were you along the Seine? Were you there in that first day in the rain?
We were there in the pouring rain, and it was incredible to be there. But at the same time, everyone was soaking wet, and it was awesome for TV. Yeah. But being there in person we were drowned rats. But you've never seen so many police in your entire life. There were 45,000 police in Paris for the opening ceremonies. It was crazy. Did you get a chance to see it later on television on a replay? I have not watched it yet. No, it's on our list. We got to catch it because I heard it was just phenomenal. It is stunning. But I remember watching that this can't be fun to be in it, but boy, it's incredible on television. Yeah. Well, and they didn't expect rain, so people didn't show up with umbrellas and ponchos, and you're just like out of nowhere, boom, and it just didn't stop. Wow. Did you see some events as well while you were there? You know, the highlight for us was going to the men's Canada basketball against Greece. Wow. Lille. And it was so fun to watch because it came down to the wire and Canada won. And my kids loved it. Oh, that's great. Good for you guys. Now, the next question is, and I believe you grew up in San Francisco. Is that true? I was born in San Francisco, lived there till I was 7, and then moved to Canada, and Canada's been home since. All right. And then you grew up on the West Coast in Vancouver area? Correct. Was there a favorite children's show when you were a youngster growing up that you used to race home from school or that you just really enjoyed? Yeah, there were two, and I don't really know why, but the Brady Bunch and Gilligan's Island, those were my shows. We would come home after school and everyone would just watch it season after season. And I have such memories from those. The Brady Bunch house was recently restored inside. They made it look like the TV show. Oh, no kidding. Yeah, in Los Angeles. And you imagine the 1-800-JUNK having to take all the Brady stuff out of there, the 6 kids. That would have been a job. Yeah. That's hilarious. Okay, and finally then, do you have a favorite all-time TV theme song? I mean, it probably goes back to It's a Story of a Lovely Lady. I mean, we'd be on bus trips going to camp and the whole bus would start to sing it because everybody knew it. That's awesome. Well, it makes sense that you would choose that one. Brian, thank you very much for your time. As I say, your story is so inspiring. The books tell part of your story for sure. You can listen to. Are you doing more episodes of the podcast? Is that something that's continuing, or I will at some point. I don't know a date. I've gotten busy, as you have alluded to, but love everything I'm doing, and I know that that's an important part of helping to inspire others. So we will get back at it. That's called Founding Stories. And Dragon's Den returns 19th season on CBC and CBC Gem. Brian Scudamore. Am I pronouncing your last name properly, Brian? Is it Scudamore? Scudamore. So I got it right the first time. I should have quit while I was ahead. It's all good. I'm not offended. I'll never forget it now. But Brian, thank you for your time and congratulations on your success. Can hardly wait to see you on Dragon's Den. I think you're going to be just a perfect fit. Well, I'm excited to watch it myself and see how it turned out, but I'm honored to be one of the dragons. And thank you, Bill, for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Good. My pleasure. Hope to talk to you again soon.
Okay.
Take care,
Thanks,
Brian.
Bill. Okay. You too.
Thanks once again to the guy who edits out all the junk here at Brio TV, producer Phil Hong. Give it up for BJ Del Conte, Paul Boudra, and all the crispy critters, as well as piano man Stephen Dudley, who many years ago recorded the music you hear on this very podcast. Now, finally, thank you to you, listener. If you enjoyed this conversation, let us know with a like or a comment at Apple or Spotify, wherever you hear these podcasts. And that would be awesome. Thank you. I'm Bill Brio. Thanks for listening.